Music, what you really hear when you hear melody is the interval between one tone and another. The steps, as it were, on the scale. It's the interval. So in the same way, in the intervals between this year's leaves, last year's leaves, this generation of people and that generation, the interval is in some ways just as important, some ways more important than what it's between.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live, episode 146 on this February 12th, Sunday, 2023. It has been a while. It's been about 4 weeks, I think, since the last SpaceWeek, almost a month. And first of all, I wanted to apologize for that. I've had a few things going on. I've been involved in some activities with my kids, which, of course, takes precedence over anything else. But also, I wanted to mention, and this is not to subject you to a sob story, but just to make you aware that one of the challenges that I have always faced with being a content creator is that of the psychological condition of depression. I've suffered with depression for most of my adult life, and it continues to make it challenging to find the motivation, to maintain the interest, and to have the energy to do the things. And so week to week, I have to, basically just shut up and do it most of the time. I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it, but I force myself to do it, and then I end up not regretting it because I produce an episode of useful information that people tend to appreciate. At least that's what the people who speak up claim, and I would tend to believe them. So I do apologize for the lapses in the weekly episodes. Space Week is kind of more like Space Month now, but I'm trying, and especially in this age of permanent demonetization and continued, anemic numbers in comparison to some other similar channels. It's hard to stay motivated to do this stuff. I still have a passion for space, but I feel like, at least on this platform, I'm kind of relegated to second-class citizen by the platform, not by the viewers. The viewers are great, but YouTube is pretty much crap. and so, but here we are. And so without further ado, let's get caught up. So, that didn't work. Rewinding all the way back to 4 weeks ago, on January 15th, we were treated to another SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch as the USS F-67 mission for the U.S. Space Force lifted off.
15 seconds. T T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine full power. And liftoff of USSF 67. Go Falcon Heavy. Go Space Force. Booster chamber pressures are nominal.
I don't remember which Falcon Heavy launch this was, number 5, number 6, something like that. But always a pleasure to watch these go up.
30 seconds into flight under the power of 5 million pounds of thrust.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Falcon Heavy
So
is
just a note, even though Falcon Heavy was
around the T plus 40-second mark.
had the most thrust of any operational rocket at the time in current production for a while, that only lasted until SLS launched last year. SLS is significantly more powerful with over 8 million pounds of thrust compared to Falcon Heavy's 5. But SLS is also not used for customer launches or satellite launches. It's currently only slated for use for the Artemis program, to my knowledge. I don't know if there are any satellites in its future. It's a very expensive vehicle for satellite launch. It would pretty much have to be like a national reconnaissance or military satellite in order to be able to afford the SLS. But if we about 2.5 minutes after the launch, the side booster's job was done. They separated from the core booster and performed their boost back burn.
Side booster, boost back burn, followed by main engine cutoff of the center core here in just a few seconds.
Side booster separation.
Side core booster startup.
Incredible views. We just had BECO and separation of the side boosters, and you can see on your left-hand screen that the side boosters have lit back up. They are now in their boost back burn, making their way back down to Earth.
So if you're not already familiar with SpaceX methodology and parlance, the boost back burn is performed with any SpaceX booster in order to bring it back to a landing pad on land. If they are landing on a drone ship, if the booster's landing on a drone ship, then they don't need the boost back burn. They simply arc into a ballistic trajectory and perform a re-entry burn, and then land on the drone ship out at sea. But during Falcon Heavy launches, they always bring the 2 side boosters back to land on the pad. And then in this case, they did not land the core stage on a drone ship because they needed that extra thrust for the mission. And so it was expended. And so they would have removed the landing legs and the titanium grid fins from that core booster because they didn't need it to perform any atmospheric maneuvering. Now, the 2 side boosters returned to a landing on the pads at Cape Canaveral, which we can see here.
And you can see the coast of Florida in the background.
Side boosters are transonic.
Now that landing burn coming up here in just about 20 seconds or so. Landing burn will last about 20 seconds long. Again, we are scheduled to land on landing zone 1 and landing zone 2.
Landing burn.
And there are those landing burns have begun on the side boosters, so let's watch as they touch down.
Stage 2 is on thermal guidance. Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Booster landing leg deployed.
And what an incredible sight to see as we watch the side boosters touchdown for landing. That confirms successful landing of both Falcon Heavy side boosters on landing zone 1 and landing zone 2. Now with these
Good job, SpaceX.
163rd and 164th
And
overall success.
another Falcon Heavy launch in the books. Now, on January 18th, SpaceX launched the GPS 306 Global Navigation System, or Global Navigation Satellite, into a medium Earth orbit.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go GPS, go Falcon. Vehicles pushing downrange. Stage 1 chamber pressure is nominal.
And the booster landing through some low clouds.
10 seconds, we will be coming up on SECO 1, our second engine cutoff, and we will attempt to land on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. That drone ship is parked
Stage 1 landing burn.
couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean.
Seco.
There we just heard the call out for a second engine cutoff. Let's see if we stick the landing with the first stage.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
All right.
Not quite a bullseye, but pretty close. Not too bad, not too bad. A day later, SpaceX launched a batch of 51 Starlinks from Vandenberg in California.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Starlink 2-4. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Emerging through the clouds.
30 seconds, successful liftoff of Falcon 9 from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg at 7:43 a.m. Pacific time. We had some fantastic views from the ground
And the landing.
that burn will continue until the first stage lands. During the landing burn, we'll also hear a call out for second engine cutoff number 1, or SECO 1, on the second stage.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Started a single Merlin engine on the first stage. We'll expect to see the landing legs deploy shortly.
Stage 2 FTS is safed.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Successful landing of Falcon 9's first stage. You also heard a call out there for MVAC shutdown. Now, this
isn't just the SpaceX show, though. On January 24th, Rocket Lab finally completed their first launch from Launch Complex 2 on Wallops Island, Virginia. All their previous launches lifted off from New Zealand's Makia Peninsula. LC-2 was appropriately themed with Rocket Lab's favorite colors, red and black. I can think of another group who favors the same colors. Peter Beck is no Kane, though, and fortunately they don't share the Brotherhood of Nod's aspirations for world domination. But let's check out the launch.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off.
Electronics
Beginning
to the pad,
pushover.
saving ground systems.
Stage 1 propulsion.
Nice view. It was a night launch, so visibility was limited. But let's rewind back to the launch. I wanna play this back in slow motion. 3, 2. Okay, hold on a sec.
7, 6,
5, 4. All right. That was an interesting. Like it's. I guess the thrust bounced off the pad or something and spit a bunch of material straight up in the air. Let me change the.
4, 3.
He was a little drunk. Choo! Looks like a bunch of ice, basically, that got shot up right before it launched. So I don't even know. Was there? Let's see. Tracking. This control room. Yeah, looks like that's all the actual live footage we got. So congratulations, Rocket Lab, for their first launch, which was rather much delayed from Virginia, from first launch from the U.S. All right. The following day, a Japanese H-2A launched the IGS Radar 7 radar reconnaissance satellite. This video is courtesy of Nico Video Visual Solutions, which usually covers the non-JAXA Japanese launches. The H-2A is made by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, a diverse company that makes all sorts of stuff.
Main engine start 0 1 SRBA 点火リフト4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 H2A ロケット46号機15 2026 11月16日
Now, the H-2A used to launch the HTV, or the H-2 transfer vehicle, which was a Japanese cargo spacecraft, to the ISS, which would be captured by Canadarm and then berthed to one of the berthing ports. But HTV has been retired, and Japan has been working on their H-3 vehicle. January 26th, SpaceX launched 56 more Starlinks from Cape Canaveral.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Starlink 5-2. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Mission gun range.
As you can see, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape.
And the booster video signal returned just in time for us to see the landing.
That landing burn has now begun.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing is confirmed.
There we can see on the left-hand side of your screen that the first stage has stuck the landing once again.
Moving right along, on January 31st, SpaceX launched from Vandenberg again with a mere 49 Starlinks, plus Ion SCV-009 Eclectic Elena by Italy-based D-Orbit.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Starlink 2-6. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Sounded like it launched out of a tin can. Good rocket cam view, though, on the ascent
Now at T+30 flight, you can see Falcon 9
of the California coastline.
or east. AM.
Now, Ion is a CubeSat deployer and a tech demo platform. Its mission this time is to test its ability to maneuver and operate in an extremely low orbit. On board Ion are Adeo N2, an autonomous braking sail by Munich-based HPS that's designed to help deorbit satellites, NIA Payload Release Ring, or PRR, by Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense for the deployment of a satellite simulator, Bunny, an onboard computer developed by students of the spacecraft team of the Swiss Institute EPFL, the native name of which I will not even attempt to pronounce, and SD-1, a memorial payload by Stardust Me, consisting of a batch of machined aluminum capsules, each of which contains 1 gram of human cremated ashes in a 3D printed enclosure. So you too can fly in space.
Those 3 events that will happen one right after another, that will be then followed by fairing separation just a few seconds later. As the name indicates, MECO, or main engine cut.
That's beautiful. And here's the landing.
One thing to note, we may or may not have ground station coverage to confirm SECO 1 live. If that happens, if we happen to lose that ground station coverage before we're able to confirm that second engine cutoff, we'll tune into the nets.
Stage 2 and terminal guidance.
We'll tune into the nets and wait for confirmation when we connect to the next ground station.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There we can see the landing burn has begun for the first stage, targeting a landing on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a very toasty rocket touches down on the drone ship.
Of course, I still love you.
Now, at T+57 minutes, we got confirmation of the Ion payload deployment, but it wasn't visible in the live view because the Starlink satellites, it was on the wrong side. The Starlink satellites were obstructing the view, and the Starlinks had not been deployed yet at that time. That brings us to February. On February 2nd, SpaceX launched 53 more Starlinks from Kennedy Space Center.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ignition. Ignition 1. Liftoff.
Eagles pitching downrange.
A beautiful golden glow. Into the clouds. Well, through the clouds anyway. And the booster landing.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 1 has lit one engine to prepare for a graceful landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. This is the final burn that slows the rocket down to help it land on the drone
Stage
ship.
1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Falcon 9 has successfully landed on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas.
Nominal orbit insertion.
This
That same day, astronauts Nicole Mann and Koichi Wakata conducted the 85th U.S. spacewalk on the ISS to prepare a mounting bracket for the next IROSA solar array to be installed. That IROSA, or ISS Rollout Solar Array, will be delivered on a SpaceX Dragon 2 Cargo Dragon later this year. I parsed through the video looking for a good Earth view, but there we go. Here's the astronauts on the outside from a distance. Busy little bees with their tethers. So they had some challenges on this spacewalk. There was that mounting bracket I mentioned. There was a flange or a cover that they were trying to get to lay flush on the surface that it was attached to, and it was not cooperating at all. They spent, I don't know, maybe 90 minutes or something like that trying to get this stupid thing to lay flat, and eventually, like, Nicole Mann had to like wiggle it from the opposite side, and Koichi Wakata was like using a pry bar to manhandle it from the one side. Anyway, they finally got the thing to lay flat, and then Capcom was like, "Now, when you tighten the bolts, please make sure not to please make sure to be gentle, because otherwise the cover may pop back out of flush alignment." But they got it done, and were able to get done all their preparation activities that they had planned. Last Sunday, a Russian Proton M launched Electro L number 4, a geostationary weather satellite. Now, as you probably know, I love compiling satellite time-lapse videos. This was Electro L number 4, but number 2 is one of the satellites I collect images from. It's situated over the eastern Atlantic. If I pause this and switch applications, let's see. There we go. Here is a sample time-lapse from Electro L number 2. Now, unlike Goes East, Goes West, and Himawari, which capture images every 10 minutes, Electro L number 2 captures an image every 30 minutes. And so because the images are more they're spaced farther apart, it's difficult to turn that into a slow motion, smooth time lapse like I do for my chill space stream. Oops, that was the end of the. Oh, it's a short right? It's a short video because it's not slow-mo. But in any case, it's difficult to turn this into a slow motion time lapse as I do with the ones for my chill space 24/7 music stream. But nonetheless, I still compile these. Rather, I collect the images and I still generate the regular speed time lapses. Though I haven't posted any yet on either of my YouTube channels, the Raw Space or Raw Earth 8K. But I will. I just haven't done it yet. So there you go. Electro L number 2. February 6th, last Monday, SpaceX launched the Amazonas Nexus geostationary communication satellite by Spanish company Hispasat, or Ispasat.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal. 2 down.
They really need to figure out some sort of gimbaling or auto stabilization correction, or just a more stable mount for those cameras on the towers, because once launch happens, they jiggle all over the place. But at least the ground-based footage is rock steady, usually.
From the launch pad. We just throttled down the Merlin 1D engines and
now here is the landing.
See that stage 1 landing burn has begun, and in just a couple of seconds here, we will shut down the MVAC engine on our second stage.
MVAC shut down.
There you have it. Now we're
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
just awaiting confirmation of nominal orbital insertion for the second stage.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Good call-outs there.
So something just occurred to me. I think I may have neglected to actually commit the change to show the satellite time lapse earlier. Please tell me in the chat if I failed to do that, and I'll play it in a bit, because I had intended to show you what that looks like. But
We'll see you back here before then. In the meantime, enjoy the space tunes.
All right. Okay. Now, this time, oh yes, this time for Ispasat, we got to see the satellite deployment.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there is a great shot from the top of the second stage, watching the Amazonas Nexus satellite continue on with the rest of its mission. But that is going to end our webcast coverage for today.
Acquisition of signal Maldives.
Okay, so there we go. So as somebody mentioned, I did neglect to actually switch the video. So I queued it up in my streaming software, but I forgot to click fade or cut, and so you couldn't actually see the time lapse. But this here is a time lapse from the Electro L number 2 satellite. It's a Russian operated satellite. And I always thought it was interesting that the images from Electro L2 are publicly available. It's not usually the way of Russian government to allow access to this sort of thing, but it's there, and I gather it every day. Well, my scripts gather it every day, which I then compile into these month-long time lapses. So there you go. Image is not quite as clean as some of the other weather satellites we're used to seeing, but it's still useful and great for Africa continent coverage, which is beyond the scope of the GOES or Himawari satellites. All right, moving right along. Last Wednesday, NASA conducted an 8-minute test firing of an RS-25E engine. This is the new version for the SLS rocket at the Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. They throttled the engines up to 111% power. 111% power per Bilbo. Now bear in mind, this is just one engine of the 4 engines that are mounted on each SLS core stage. Of course, the majority of the thrust on SLS comes from the 2 side boosters, the solid rocket boosters, because solid propellant has crazy thrust-to-weight ratio. But yeah, this is one of the RS-25s. Again, this is one of the new ones, the ones that are designed to be cheaper and non-reusable, as opposed to the RS-25Ds, which flew on the old space shuttle. Let's see if we can fast forward to the shutdown. And there we go. Shut down. The previous test they did, I think, a few months ago, did not run to completion. It only ran about half the time, but this was a full-length test. Now, early on Thursday, a Russian Soyuz launched the Progress MS-22 supply mission to the ISS from Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Двигатели центрального и боковых блоков ракеты-носителя вышли на режим главной ступени тяги. 10. Параметры системы управления ракеты-носителя в норме. 15. 20. Двигатели первой и второй ступени работают нормально. 25. 30. Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме.
Now, this particularly clean footage comes directly from Roscosmos. Whereas for some reason the Roscosmos uplink to NASA is potato cam, so some serious quality is lost en route. Pretty soon here we should see SRB shut down and booster SEP with Korolev cross. Let's fast forward a bit. Boop. And there go the boosters. Flipping away to the side. And there's the launch pad. Okay. Now, Progress docked about 2 days later. Here's a time lapse courtesy of Sci News. A great channel for launch recaps. So, like, so the Progress and the Soyuz Crew spacecraft are very similar. They're basically the same vehicle, but one is geared for cargo and the other for crew. And they both use the same automated docking system that's been in use by Russia for a long time. There it is aligning itself with the docking port. And so it's actually targeting that cross or plus sign, not the center of the docking port. So that's why you see it's offset. Boop. Contact. Also on Thursday, SpaceX completed a full-duration static test fire of 31 Raptor engines on a Starship Super Heavy booster. They had planned to fire 33 engines, but test controllers shut down one engine prior to the test, and one other engine shut itself down. Elon Musk tweeted that 31 was still enough to get Starship to orbit. Let's check out the test. Now, this was a full duration test, so this wasn't or rather, they tested for the full duration that they intended. So obviously, on an actual launch, the engines will fire for longer than 5 seconds. But it was commented by one of the folks over on Lab Padre, Rockin' Robbins, if you could use the Lab Padre command in the chat so people know where to go for that. They had somebody on site, and he said that the sound from this test was unlike anything he'd ever heard. It was much deeper and like a beefy, low rumble, much more powerful than the other launches or firings that he had heard. But in any case, here are some still images from SpaceX. Kablam. So because there's no flame trench and the exhaust is not directed by any sort of structure, it emanates from the bottom of the rocket in all directions, which we see here. Although there is a gap in the direction of the launch tower itself, because the physical structure of the tower is kind of blocking the exhaust from that direction. There's a view down from the tower. And finally, this shot, this detailed image looking down from the launch tower. Damn. Now, Elon tweeted that this test was only at 50% thrust. So these 31 engines were firing only at 50% of rated capacity. As a result, the resulting 3,500 tons of thrust weren't quite as much as last year's SLS rocket launch, which produced 4,400 tons. SpaceX's next test will be at 90% thrust, though. Assuming all 33 engines fire, the next test will produce almost 7,600 tons of thrust. That's 73% more than SLS with its 2 solid rocket boosters and 4 RS-25s. Definitely looking forward to that. Early on Friday, India's space agency, ISRO, launched their Small Satellite Launch Vehicle, or SSLV, for the second time. It's worth noting that the first launch, last August, was unsuccessful. A sensor failure and software flaws caused it to place the payloads into an unstable transatmospheric orbit. This launch was successful, however, bearing the satellites EOS-07, Janus-1, and Azadisat-2 to a circular orbit. India's EOS series of satellites is not to be confused with EOS-SAT-1 from EOS Data Analytics, which launched in early January, and for which I live hosted the stream and interviewed some of the specialists from EOS Data Analytics. Totally different satellite series. So here is the launch. Preceded by some stills.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Beautiful launch of SSLV D2 EOS 07 on a bright sunny morning.
प्रज्वलन और सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन SSLV D2 ब्रह्मोचकियान का अपनी उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर SSLV D2 EOS 7 mission.
We have confirmation from the Range Operations Director of the normal performance of stage 1, which means close to 2,600 kilonewtons thrust. 87 tons of solid propellant burns for 115 seconds.
भारत के आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव को दर्शाता भारत का एक और महत्वपूर्ण मिशन दिन
And let me do that with the microphone on. So congratulations to ISRO for the first successful launch of SSLV. Now, lastly, just after midnight today local time, SpaceX launched 55 more Starlinks from the Cape.
15 seconds. Press 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Starlink 5-4.
Eagles pitching downrange.
If you're just joining us, we are at T plus 30 seconds, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at 12:10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Here is the booster landing.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 1 has now lit one engine to prepare for landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. This final burn slows down the rocket and will help it land on the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Falcon 9 has successfully landed on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, making this our 100th
And with that,
landing of a Falcon 9 first stage.
we are caught up. Now, taking a look further back into space history, this Wednesday marks the 10th anniversary of the Chelyabinsk meteor airburst over Russia on February 15th, 2013. The asteroid was an estimated size of, what did they say, about a school bus, 66 feet or 20 meters in diameter, and it exploded at an altitude of about 30 kilometers or 18.5 miles over near the Russian city of Chelyabinsk. It produced an equivalent explosive yield of 400 to 500 kilotons of TNT. That's 26 to 33 times Hiroshima. It damaged 7,200 buildings and shattered windows, and it collapsed a factory roof. There were almost 1,500 non-fatal injuries, mostly due to flying glass, but there were no actual fatalities. But it was a stark reminder of just what can happen when a large space rock decides to pay us a visit. Now that was, I say large, but that was only a 66-foot asteroid. That was a small potato. A larger asteroid would be exponentially worse. And so that's why we had our NASA DART mission to see if we can redirect such potential threats in the future. This Saturday marks the 2nd anniversary of the landing of the Mars 2020 rover Perseverance with its Ingenuity drone on February 18th, 2021. We've all enjoyed seeing the images from Percy and Ingenuity. Ingy, I guess people call it. But yeah, that was 2 years ago. Now, looking ahead to this week, on Tuesday, February 14th at 8:37 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:37 p.m. Eastern Time, or 01:37 UTC on the 15th, a Japanese H-3 rocket, remember we talked about the H-2A earlier, a Japanese H-3 will be launching ALOS-3, the Advanced Land Observing Satellite, for JAXA. It's also called Daiichi-3, and it will capture, as the caption says here, high-resolution, wide swath images of all the world's land surfaces, providing data for applications in disaster management, land use, urban sprawl, scientific research, and coastal and vegetation environment monitoring. Now, I believe this rocket is also manufactured by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, but this is a JAXA mission, and so there should be live coverage from JAXA. I will not be providing a restream of this at the time, but go to JAXA's channel to see that. On Wednesday, February 15th, at 11:32 a.m. Eastern Time, 16:32 UTC, is a SpaceX Falcon 9 launch of another Starlink mission, 2-5, from Vandenberg in California. Again, SpaceX will be providing the live coverage. I will not have it here on my channel. But as always, you're free to watch the live stream on the Launch Providers channel while engaging in the live chat with your raw space community in the Chill Space music stream, if you have the screen real estate for it. On mobile, it might be a little trickier, but in any case, the live chat's always available, and chances are most of the raw space folks that you know will be hanging around in the Chill Space chat. And then on Friday, February 17th at 10:58 p.m. Eastern on the 17th, or 03:58 UTC on the 18th, is another SpaceX Falcon 9 launch of Inmarsat 6F2 from Cape Canaveral into a geostationary transfer orbit. The satellite itself, of course, is bound for geostationary orbit, but the Falcon 9 will only deliver it to a transfer orbit and then the circularization of its orbit at geostationary altitude will be done by the satellite itself, per usual. And so that is on Friday the 17th. And once again, SpaceX will have live coverage of that. But you can chat in the Raw Space live chat if you wish. That's actually it for the coming week. It's a little bit... Actually, let me... Hold on. Is there anything on next Sunday? Yes, there is next Sunday, but it's after Space Week. So assuming I do not cancel next week's Space Week, which I will try not to, unless there's something pressing that prevents me from doing so, like an event with my kids, then I will have that for you at that time. So, as always, I want to take a moment to thank the channel regulars and channel supporters for their continued perseverance and ingenuity in their support of this channel. You know, I would not have kept doing this if not for the positive words and the shows of support from you folks. Yeah, you're the reason for this thing happening. So thank you for being here. Whether or not you show support monetarily, even if it's just saying thank you, you know, for what you do or whatever, the fact that someone appreciates it is that's why I keep doing it, because I feel like it's a service that people use, and so there you go. So let me get to your questions. I have no idea if our chatbot thing... Okay, so Chris V, thank you once again for helping with the live question aggregation. Ian Stobie, mesosphere is hard to spell. Will you start covering it now that there's a lot going on there? Mesosphere or mesosphere, I've heard it pronounced both ways. So I'm a little rusty on my my atmospheric or altitude range names. I don't recall at what altitude is considered the mesosphere, but anything of note that is happening in or above our atmosphere, I will try to provide some coverage of. But I don't specifically have any information about the mesosphere. Rockin' Robbins 13. Are you going to say anything about the Google chatbot snafu? Is it a real issue? Why would ChatGPT not make a similar error? I am not familiar with the Google chatbot snafu, so perhaps someone could enlighten me there. And if they do, I'll get back to that in a minute. MVM Motovlog Music, thanks for your honesty. You're welcome. Julian, we heart you, Raw Space. Thank you. I heart you too. Denise Campbell, I also battle depression and PTSD. When things get bad, it's bad, in capital letters. Hang in there, Raw Space. Well, thank you. Yeah, depression is one of those things that if you don't experience it yourself, I mean, there's a lot of sort of affective disorders that if you don't experience it yourself, you really probably don't understand it. Like, you know, why don't you just cheer up, or why don't you exercise more, or why don't you whatever, take medicine? It'll make everything better. It's not that simple. And some solutions work to varying degrees for different people, but you know, there's no panacea and there's no cure-all, and sometimes nothing makes everything better. You know, like people ask me how I'm doing, and I'm like, well, I'm reasonably content at the moment. But they ask if I'm happy, and I'm like, happy? I don't know that I've ever been happy, so that's not really a thing that I can feel. You know, and so when we're watching launches and something exciting is happening, I sit here largely stony-faced, and quietly appreciate what's happening. The booster seps and the landings and the thrust, whatever. I appreciate it, but I'm not like jumping up and down and waving my arms in the air like some other content creators I can think of. And that is simply not an aspect of my personality. But that's okay. I'm surviving and I'm getting by. I support my kids and as a single dad, and we're doing all right. We're not doing stellar, but we're okay. And so if my channel content suffers somewhat because of that, and I skip a few weeks of SpaceWeek, I give my heartfelt apology for that. But please understand that it's not just that I'm lazy, though I do have a strong lazy streak. It's that I'm in a pit that's hard to get out of. So, in any case, thank you all for your continued support. All right. Rockin' Robbins 13. Wouldn't it be great if SpaceX teamed up with ULA to replace the BE-4 from Blue Origin, that's the engine on the new Vulcan rocket, with Raptors? As I mentioned in the chat, I suspect that's something that has very likely come up at the conference table with Tori Bruno, who heads ULA. But he's been asked many times, what happens if Blue Origin can't produce the BE-4? Do they have other options? And he has said yes, but he hasn't specified what those options are. So one of them could potentially be the Raptor, but who knows? But that would be neat to see a ULA SpaceX collaboration. MVM Motovlog Music. When you don't stream a launch, I plan on watching it live while chatting in your Chill Live channel. That's a good idea, and thank you for mentioning that, because the chat's always there, whether or not anybody's in it. Whether or not Benu's in it as well, because he sometimes makes an appearance in the window on his perch. Denise Campbell, nice Lord of the Rings reference with 11% from Bilbo. So thanks for noticing that. And finally, Rockin' Robbins 13 says, thank you, Raw Space. Also, he says just now, hey, you have content. How many Pollyanna types who ask you why you can't be cheerful have channels at all? That's a good point. I mean, one person's marginally productive is another person's amazingly productive. Like, some people don't make stuff at all. They do stuff, maybe. They experience stuff, or maybe they simply watch stuff. Lots of people spend all of their free time just plugged into the TV or, flipping social media, flip, or whatever. So that's a good point. Not everybody actually produces something that can be consumed by other people, whether that be art or photos or videos or even restreaming launches or whatever. But I try to do what I can. I try not to be completely self-contained. That is to say, I try to do something that will be useful to someone else. I don't always succeed, but I do what I can. All right. Anything else? Oh, Ian Stobie, the latest balloons were in the mesosphere. I presume referring to the Chinese spy balloon. I saw so many references to that in social media, but I didn't actually read up on what actually happened. So I guess there was an actual spy balloon that China sent over that we shot down. That's silly. I mean, it's not exactly a small target, right? But yeah, I guess. I mean, I had a friend who said that he theorized that next they'd be sending over. He's a conspiracy theorist, but he said that next they'd be sending over balloons that were intended to be shot down because they would deploy some sort of toxin over the United States. And I was like, dude, that would be an act of war. They're not going to do that. China doesn't want a war with us, nor do we want one with them. But he's like, no, they're going to do it. It's like, okay. But yeah, that would be something though. Hopefully we don't get any more spy balloons though, because we don't need any sort of escalation of political tensions between our two great nations. All right, so it looks like that's going to wrap it up for this week. If I did not get to your question, then my name, you probably didn't tag my name at raw space, but I apologize. You can go ahead and ask in Discord, which I will link now. And yeah, so thank you all for coming. Thanks for sticking around, and I will very much try to catch you next week. Same time, same place. Well, a little earlier, hopefully at the scheduled 3 o'clock p.m. rather than 4:35 or whatever it was. Until then, keep it raw, and I'll catch you later.